The courthouse summons arrived on a Tuesday morning. I stared at the document, my coffee growing cold in my hand. Linda Chen versus Robert Chen's motion to modify dissolution agreement. But we'd been divorced for 5 years. The agreement was final. Binding. What does she want? I said to the empty kitchen. The answer was on page 3. My ex-wife claimed I'd hidden assets during our divorce. She wanted to reopen the financial settlement. She wanted half of my teacher's pension, half of my 403b retirement account, half of everything I'd earned in 35 years of teaching. $847,000. That's what I had. Carefully saved, meticulously documented, honestly earned. Within 2 weeks, I'd be sitting across from her in court, watching her lawyer try to rewrite history. But Linda had forgotten something important. Teachers don't guess about details. We document everything. And I had 35 years of documentation that would prove exactly what she was trying to steal. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a story about standing up for what's right. Part 1, The Summons. The paper felt heavier than it should. Legal weight, I suppose. I read it 3 times, each time hoping I'd misunderstood. I hadn't. My name was Robert Chen. 63 years old. Retired high school principal after 35 years in education. I'd taught history for 15 years, then became vice principal, then principal. I'd retired 2 years ago with a pension, a 403b account, and a paid-off condo in Riverside. I'd been divorced from Linda for 5 years. We'd split everything fairly, or so I thought. She'd gotten the house in Newport Beach, worth $680,000 at the time. I'd kept my retirement accounts, worth about $520,000 back then. We'd agreed. Signed documents. Filed with the court. Clean break. Final. Or it should have been. I picked up my phone and called the one person I trusted with legal matters. Margaret Chen Associates. Margaret, it's Robert. I need to see you. Today if possible. My cousin Margaret had been practicing family law for 27 years. She'd handled my divorce. She knew every detail of that settlement. What's wrong? Linda's trying to reopen the divorce agreement. She's claiming I hid assets. The silence on the line told me everything. Come to my office at 2 o'clock. Bring the summons and any financial documents you have from the divorce. I looked at the filing cabinet in my home office. 4 drawers. 35 years of meticulous records. Every pay stub, every retirement contribution statement, every investment transaction. Teachers are trained to keep records. Grade books, attendance sheets, incident reports. The habit doesn't stop just because you retire. I'll bring everything, I said. Part 2, The Documents. Margaret's office occupied the 3rd floor of a building on Main Street. The walls were lined with law books, the kind that radiated professional authority. I set 3 banker's boxes on her conference table. Margaret raised an eyebrow. Everything? Everything. Organized by year. She opened the first box and pulled out a folder labeled 2018 Retirement Contributions. Inside were monthly statements from the California State Teachers Retirement System, contribution records, investment allocations. You kept all of this? Force of habit. In 35 years of education, you learn that documentation protects you. Parents dispute grades, you show the grade book. Administrators question your decisions, you show the paper trail. Margaret was already reading the summons with the focused intensity of a surgeon examining x-rays. This is serious, Robert. She's not just asking for a modification. She's claiming fraud. She's saying you deliberately hid assets during the dissolution proceedings. That's insane. You handled the divorce. You saw everything. I know. But she's hired Dale Whitmore. I didn't recognize the name. He's expensive. Aggressive. He doesn't take cases unless he thinks there's money to extract. Margaret set down the summons. Tell me exactly what you had when you divorced and what you have now. I pulled out my laptop and opened a spreadsheet. 35 years of teaching had also taught me to love spreadsheets. At the time of divorce, 5 years ago, I had CalSTRS pension value, $342,000. 403b retirement account, $178,000. Savings account, $23,400. Total, $543,400. She got the Newport Beach house, $680,000. Her own 401k, $87,000. Joint savings, $23,400. Total, $790,400. She got more than I did. Margaret studied the numbers. And now? Now I have $847,000 total. The market's been good. I haven't touched the principal. I've been living on my pension payments. So your retirement accounts have grown from $520,000 to $824,000 in 5 years. That's a 58% increase. The S&P 500 is up 62% over that period. My returns are actually slightly below market average because I'm invested conservatively. Margaret smiled for the first time. You really are a math teacher at heart. History teacher. But I like numbers. She pulled out a legal pad and started making notes. Here's what's happening. Linda, or more likely, her new husband Marcus, has looked at your current retirement balance and decided they want a piece of it. They're going to argue that you undervalued your retirement accounts during the divorce, or that you had hidden assets you didn't disclose. That's ridiculous. You had a forensic accountant review everything. I know. But 5 years have passed. Judges can be sympathetic to claims of newly discovered evidence, especially if the requesting party claims they didn't have access to proper legal counsel at the time. She had a lawyer. Robert Morrison. He reviewed everything. Margaret nodded. Morrison retired 3 years ago. Moved to Florida. Dale Whitmore is probably banking on the fact that Morrison's notes might not be readily available. I felt something cold settle in my chest. This wasn't about justice. This was about money. Linda's money. Or rather, Marcus's debts. What do I need to do? We're going to fight this. But I need you to understand family court judges have broad discretion. If Whitmore can create even a reasonable appearance that you hid assets, the judge might order a new financial accounting. That could freeze your accounts for months, maybe longer. Can they do that? They can do anything the judge approves. And Linda is claiming financial hardship. That makes judges sympathetic. I thought about Linda. We'd been married for 23 years. 2 kids, both grown now. The marriage had ended not with dramatic fights, but with slow, grinding incompatibility. She wanted excitement, travel, luxury. I wanted stability, routine, peace. The divorce had been sad but amicable. Or so I thought. What changed? I asked. Margaret closed the file. That's what we need to find out. People don't usually try to reopen divorce settlements after 5 years unless something has happened. Something desperate. Part 3, The Discovery. I spent that evening doing what teachers do best, research. I started with social media. Linda's Facebook profile was semi-public. I could see her recent posts. Photos from Cabo San Lucas. March 2024. Photos from a yacht. January 2024. Photos from a BMW dealership. New car day. November 2023. Someone was spending money. A lot of money. I clicked on Linda's relationship status. Married to Marcus Whitfield. Marcus Whitfield. I'd met him once, briefly, at our daughter's wedding 3 years ago. Mid-50s, worked in commercial real estate development, drove a Mercedes. He'd barely acknowledged my existence. I opened a new tab and searched Marcus Whitfield Commercial Real Estate Los Angeles. The first result was a news article from the Los Angeles Business Journal. 8 months old. Whitfield Development files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. I read the article twice. Marcus Whitfield's commercial development company had filed for bankruptcy after a major project in downtown LA had collapsed. Investors were owed $4.7 million. Whitfield personally guaranteed $2.3 million of the debt. The article mentioned that Whitfield's personal assets, including his primary residence, were being reviewed by bankruptcy trustees. I sat back in my chair. The Newport Beach house that Linda got in our divorce, the $680,000 house, was now worth at least $950,000. But if Marcus had used it as collateral for his business debts, it could be seized by creditors. They weren't attacking me because they wanted more money. They were attacking me because they were drowning. I pulled out my phone and called Margaret. "It's 9 p.m., Robert. Marcus Whitfield is bankrupt. He owes millions. I think they're trying to grab my retirement money to pay his debts." Silence. "Then, send me everything you found. We need to file a response motion immediately." Part 4, The Threat. 3 days later, Linda called me directly. My daughter Emily must have given her my new number. "Robert? It's Linda. We need to talk." I hadn't heard her voice in 5 years. It sounded older, tired. "I have a lawyer, Linda. You should talk to her. Please. Just give me 5 minutes. In person. I'll come to Riverside." Something in her voice made me agree. Tomorrow. 3 o'clock, the Starbucks on Magnolia. I arrived at 2:45 and took a corner table where I could see the entrance. Margaret had told me to record any conversation, so I opened a voice memo app on my phone and set it on the table. Linda walked in at 3:02. She looked different. Thinner. Her clothes were expensive, but her face was drawn. She sat down without ordering anything. "Thank you for meeting me." I waited. "Robert, I need you to understand. This isn't personal. Trying to steal my retirement savings isn't personal. It's not stealing. It's correcting an inequity in our settlement." I almost laughed. "You got $790,000. I got $543,000. You got more than I did. The house has lost value. There are problems with the foundation. It's worth less than we thought." That was a lie. The Newport Beach real estate market had only gone up. "Linda, I know about Marcus's bankruptcy. I know about the $2.3 million he owes. This isn't about our divorce settlement. This is about his debts." Her face hardened. The friendly mask dropped. "You have $847,000 sitting in retirement accounts. You're living alone in a small condo. You don't need all that money. We have obligations. Real financial pressure. And your solution is to steal from me? It's not stealing if the court orders it. And they will order it, Robert. My lawyer has evidence that you undervalued your pension during the divorce. Evidence that you had other accounts you didn't disclose. That's a lie." She leaned forward. "Is it? Can you really prove you disclosed everything 5 years ago? Your lawyer from back then is retired. Mine conveniently lost his notes. The forensic accountant's report is missing from the court file. It's your word against mine, and I'm the one claiming to be the victim." I felt my hands tighten on the table edge. 35 years of classroom management had taught me not to show anger. Principals don't raise their voices. We speak quietly and let institutional authority do the work. You're committing perjury. I'm exercising my legal rights. And if you don't settle with us, give us $400,000 to make this go away, we'll drag this out for 2 years. Your accounts will be frozen. You'll spend $100,000 on legal fees. And you might lose anyway." She stood up. "Think about it, Robert. $400,000 now, or risk losing everything later. You have until Monday. She walked out. I sat there for 5 minutes, staring at my phone. The voice memo had captured everything. Teachers don't lose their tempers. But we also don't back down when we know we're right. Part 5, The Evidence. That night, I opened my filing cabinet and pulled out every document from 2019, the year of my divorce. Grade books from my last year as principal. Attendance records. Budget reports. And underneath those, my personal financial records. Every bank statement. Every retirement account statement. Every investment transaction. Every pay stub. All organized by month, then by category, then by account number. I'd given all of this to Margaret during the divorce. She'd given it to the forensic accountant. The accountant had created a 47-page report valuing all my assets. I found my copy of that report in a folder labeled Divorce Final Documents, April 2019. Page 23, Robert Chen's CalSTRS pension value, $342,000, calculated using standard actuarial tables for a 58-year-old male with 33 years of service. Page 31, 403B retirement account balance as of March 15, 2019, $178,234. Page 39, no evidence of undisclosed accounts, hidden assets, or financial irregularities detected. Mr. Chen's financial disclosure appears complete and accurate. The report was signed by Gerald Thornton, CPA, CFE. Certified Forensic Examiner. I opened my laptop and searched for Thornton's firm. Still in business. Still in Orange County. I called the next morning. Thornton Associates. This is Robert Chen. Mr. Thornton conducted a forensic accounting review for my divorce in 2019. I need to ask if he still has records from that case. Let me transfer you to Mr. Thornton. 3 rings. Gerald Thornton. Mr. Thornton, this is Robert Chen. You conducted a financial review for my divorce 5 years ago. My ex-wife is now claiming I hid assets. I need to know if you still have your work files from that case. Mr. Chen, yes. We maintain records for 7 years. I remember your case very straightforward. You had excellent documentation. Relief flooded through me. Would you be willing to testify about your findings if this goes to court? If subpoenaed, yes. But I can do better than that. I can provide a supplemental affidavit stating that my 2019 conclusions remain accurate and that I found no evidence of hidden assets. That might stop this before it gets to trial. That would be incredibly helpful. I'll need authorization from your attorney. Have her contact my office. I called Margaret immediately. Get Thornton's affidavit, she said. And Robert? I have news. I filed a motion to compel discovery. I'm demanding that Linda provide financial disclosure for her and Marcus for the past 5 years. If they're claiming they need money, they have to prove it. And when they do, we'll see exactly how much Marcus owes and why. Will the judge grant it? Family court judges don't like being lied to. If we can show that this is really about Marcus's bankruptcy and not about your alleged hidden assets, the judge will shut this down fast. What if they refuse to provide the documents? Margaret's voice was cold. Then we'll subpoena Marcus's bankruptcy trustee. Those are public records. And when the judge sees that Marcus owes $2.3 million and that Linda is trying to grab your retirement money to pay his debts, this case will be over. Part 6, The Trap. A week later, I received an email from Linda's lawyer, Dale Whitmore. Mr. Chen, your refusal to settle this matter amicably is disappointing. We are prepared to proceed to a full evidentiary hearing. However, my client is willing to meet one final time to discuss a reasonable resolution. Would you be available for a 4-way meeting, both parties and both counsel, this Friday at 2 p.m. at my office? I forwarded it to Margaret. She called me 5 minutes later. They're panicking. They want to settle before we get their financial records. This is good. Should I agree to the meeting? Absolutely. But Robert, here's what you need to know. At that meeting, they're going to try to pressure you. They're going to make threats. They're going to tell you that you're going to lose everything if you don't settle. Don't react. Don't argue. Let me handle it. I've been a principal for 18 years. I can handle difficult conversations. I know. But this is different. This is your ex-wife. There's history there. Emotion. Don't let it cloud your judgment. She was right. But I'd spent 35 years dealing with angry parents, hostile staff, and difficult situations. I knew how to keep calm. Part 7, The Confrontation. Dale Whitmore's office was in a glass tower in Newport Beach. Expensive furniture, ocean views, original art on the walls. Margaret and I sat on one side of the conference table. Linda and Marcus sat on the other. Whitmore sat at the head. Marcus looked worse than I'd expected. Expensive suit but dark circles under his eyes. Hands that wouldn't stay still. Linda wouldn't meet my eyes. Whitmore spoke first. Thank you all for coming. I think we can resolve this matter today if everyone is reasonable. My client is asking for $400,000 to settle all claims. That's less than half of Mr. Chen's current retirement balance. Seems fair. Margaret opened her briefcase and pulled out a document. Your client got $790,000 in the original divorce settlement. My client got $543,000. Your client received $247,000 more than my client. There is no inequity to correct. Whitmore smiled. The house has depreciated. Our valuation shows. The house has appreciated. Newport Beach property values are up 39% since 2019. That house is now worth approximately $950,000. Would you like me to provide comparable sales data? Whitmore's smile tightened. Regardless, Mr. Chen's pension was undervalued. We have an expert who will testify. Margaret put another document on the table. This is an affidavit from Gerald Thornton, the forensic accountant who reviewed all of Mr. Chen's finances in 2019. He states, under oath, that Mr. Chen's financial disclosure was complete, accurate, and that no hidden assets existed. Mr. Thornton is willing to testify. I watched Linda's face. She glanced at Marcus. Something unspoken passed between them. Furthermore, Margaret continued, we have filed a motion to compel your client and Mr. Whitfield to provide complete financial disclosure for the past 5 years, including bankruptcy filings, creditor claims, and any personal guarantees Mr. Whitfield executed. Marcus leaned forward. That's not relevant to. It's completely relevant, Margaret said. Because this case isn't about correcting inequities in a divorce settlement. It's about paying your debts with my client's retirement money. Whitmore held up a hand. Let's everyone calm down. My clients have every right to extort? Margaret's voice was sharp. Because that's what this is. Whitmore straightened in his chair. I take great offense at that characterization. My clients are simply exercising their legal rights to. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my phone. Everyone stopped talking. Dale, I said quietly. Do you know what extortion actually sounds like? I placed the phone on the conference table and pressed play. Linda's voice filled the expensive office. Clear. Unmistakable. Give us $400,000 to make this go away. We'll drag this out for 2 years. Your accounts will be frozen. You'll spend $100,000 on legal fees. And you might lose anyway. The conference room went silent. I let it play for another 15 seconds. Linda's voice continued, think about it, Robert. $400,000 now, or risk losing everything later. You have until Monday. I pressed stop. Linda's face had gone white. Her hands gripped the armrests of her chair. Marcus stared at her, his mouth slightly open. Whitmore looked like he'd been punched in the stomach. "That," Margaret said into the silence, "is your client threatening my client with financial ruin unless he pays her $400,000. Some people might call that settlement negotiation. The California Penal Code calls it extortion under Section 518. Whitmore turned to Linda. "You told me you refused to negotiate." "You told me." "I was just trying to avoid a trial," Linda said quickly. Her voice was shaking. "That's not what I meant." "That's exactly what you meant," I said. I kept my voice level, the way I'd done for 35 years when dealing with students who'd been caught cheating. "You threatened to freeze my accounts, drain my savings on legal fees, and destroy my retirement unless I paid you $400,000 for a claim you knew was false." I reached into my briefcase and pulled out another document. I slid it across the table to Whitmore. "That's a transcript of the recording. Timestamped. With the GPS coordinates of the Starbucks where Linda said those words. Margaret has already filed it with the court as evidence of bad faith and potential criminal conduct." Whitmore was reading the transcript, his face getting darker with each line. "Dale," Margaret said. Her voice was almost gentle. "You're a good lawyer. You've been practicing for 23 years. You have a reputation. But right now, you're representing a client who just committed extortion on tape, filed false claims about hidden assets, and is trying to steal retirement money to pay her husband's business debts." She placed another document on the table. "This is the complaint we're prepared to file with the California State Bar. It alleges that you knowingly filed false claims, failed to conduct due diligence on your client's allegations, and participated in an extortion scheme. Even if the bar doesn't disbar you, the investigation alone will cost you clients, money, and reputation." Whitmore didn't look up from the transcript. "We're also prepared," Margaret continued, "to file a malicious prosecution counterclaim. We'll seek damages for emotional distress, legal fees, and punitive damages. Given that recording, we'd win. Easily. And we'll make sure every family law judge in Orange County knows what your client tried to do." She leaned forward. "Or," she said quietly, "you can do what smart lawyers do when they discover their client has been lying to them. You withdraw from the case. Right now. With prejudice. Meaning Linda can never refile. And we all walk away." The room was so quiet I could hear the air conditioning humming. Whitmore looked at Linda. Then at Marcus. Then back at the transcript in his hands. He stood up. "I need to speak with my clients. Privately." We stepped outside into the hallway. Margaret checked her watch. 2 minutes. "He'll withdraw." "How do you know?" "Because he just realized Linda lied to him. She told him you refused to negotiate, that you were being unreasonable. She never mentioned threatening you. Dale's not stupid. If he continues representing her after hearing that recording, he's complicit. He knows that. And Linda? She's terrified. That recording is evidence of a crime. If we report it to the DA, she could face criminal charges. Her best option is to drop everything and hope we don't press charges." The door opened. Whitmore stood in the doorway. He wouldn't look at Linda. "I'm withdrawing as counsel, effective immediately. My clients acknowledge they made errors in their filing and wish to withdraw their motion with prejudice. All divorce-related claims between the parties are hereby fully and finally resolved." He handed Margaret a document. His signature was already on it. "I'll file this with the court today." He walked past us to the elevator without another word. Through the open door, I could see Linda sitting at the conference table, her face in her hands. Marcus stood by the window, staring out at the ocean. Margaret and I walked to the elevator. "That," she said as the doors closed, "is how you win a case." Part 8, The Aftermath. 2 weeks later, I received official notice from the court. Linda's motion had been withdrawn with prejudice. The divorce was finally, truly, permanently closed. But that wasn't the end of the story. 3 months later, I was having coffee with my daughter Emily when she told me what had happened to Linda and Marcus. "Mom and Marcus are getting divorced," Emily said. Her voice was quiet. I didn't say anything. Marcus's bankruptcy got worse. The trustee seized the house. Mom lost everything: the house, her savings, everything she put into trying to save his business. She stirred her coffee, not meeting my eyes. She's living in a one-bedroom apartment in Anaheim now, working as an office manager at a medical clinic. Marcus moved to Arizona. No forwarding address. I thought about the $950,000 house in Newport Beach. The yacht photos. The BMW. All gone. "She asked me to ask you something," Emily said. I waited. "She wants to know if you'd consider lending her money. Just enough to get back on her feet. Maybe $20,000. I looked at my daughter. 28 years old. Married. Working as a graphic designer. She'd stayed neutral through everything, and I respected that. "What do you think I should do?" I asked. Emily was quiet for a long moment. "I think," she said carefully, "that Mom made her choices. She chose to trust Marcus. She chose to go after your retirement. She chose to threaten you." She looked up. "I think you've been more than fair. You're not angry with me?" "No, Dad. I'm angry with her. She tried to steal from you. She would have taken everything you worked for." Emily's voice cracked slightly. "I'm just sorry it took me so long to see what she was doing." I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "You don't have to choose sides." "I'm not choosing sides. I'm just seeing things clearly now. I didn't lend Linda the money. Margaret advised me that any financial transaction could be construed as reopening our divorce settlement. And honestly, I didn't want to. Teachers learn early that enabling bad behavior doesn't help anyone. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone face the consequences of their choices. 6 months after that, I ran into someone from Linda and Marcus's old social circle at the grocery store. A woman named Patricia who'd been at their wedding. "Robert, I heard about everything that happened. I'm so sorry." I started to deflect, but she continued. "Linda and Marcus burned through so much money trying to fight you. Dale Whitmore charged them $75,000 before he dropped them. They had to hire another lawyer just to file the withdrawal. By the time it was over, they'd spent nearly $100,000 on legal fees." She shook her head. "And the bankruptcy trustee found out they tried to hide assets. Apparently Linda never disclosed your divorce settlement to Marcus's creditors. They're investigating her for bankruptcy fraud now." I didn't feel satisfaction. Just a quiet confirmation that dishonesty has a way of compounding. "Marcus left her with all the debt," Patricia continued. "Just disappeared one night. Didn't even tell her where he was going." She leaned in closer, her voice dropping. "Everyone knows what they tried to do to you. What Linda did. That recording got around, not officially, but word spreads in these circles. She's been disinvited from the yacht club. No one returns her calls. She's essentially been frozen out of the life she wanted so badly." Patricia touched my arm. "I just wanted you to know everyone knows you were in the right. Everyone knows she tried to steal from you." After she left, I stood in the produce section for a moment, holding a bag of apples. I didn't spread that recording. I didn't have to. The truth has a way of getting out. A year later, I was sitting on my small balcony, watching the sunset over the San Bernardino Mountains. My laptop was open, showing my financial spreadsheet. My retirement accounts had grown to $891,000. The market had been kind. I'd donated $25,000 to the Teachers Pension Fund Advocacy Group. Another $15,000 to a scholarship fund for low-income students. I'd helped Emily and her husband with a down payment on their first house, $30,000, given freely, with no strings attached. I still had more than enough. More than I needed. My phone buzzed. A text from Margaret. Saw the bankruptcy fraud charges were dropped against Linda. Insufficient evidence. Thought you'd want to know. I typed back, thank you. I didn't feel angry. I felt tired. Disappointed, maybe. But not angry. Linda had gambled everything on Marcus's promises and lost. She tried to steal from me to cover his debts and lost again. She'd ended up with less than nothing: no husband, no house, no savings, no friends. I'd chosen differently. I'd chosen to document everything, to keep records, to be meticulous and careful. To protect what I'd built. Different choices. Different outcomes. I closed my laptop and made myself a cup of tea. The simple pleasures had always been enough for me. A quiet evening. A comfortable chair. Tea and a book. No yachts. No BMW. No expensive lawyer fees. Just peace. Emily called as I was finishing my tea. Dad, I wanted to ask you something. Would you want to come to dinner next week? It's just us, no drama, no discussion of Mom. Just family. I'd love that, sweetheart. After we hung up, I watched the last light fade from the mountains. Teachers learn early that you can't control other people's choices. Linda had chosen greed over honesty, desperation over patience, shortcuts over integrity. I'd chosen to document everything. To keep records. To stand firm when threatened. Some people might call it paranoia. Teachers call it survival. And sometimes, survival is the same thing as victory.